Oh, we've got something we haven't had for a while, showers and thunderstorms. As we move along on this Tuesday, the second to last day of August, we still don't have a named tropical storm. We'll have one day left before it goes down into the record books as one of the longest non-tropical dry spells on record. We'll talk about that, the long range and the Labor Day weekend on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Getting ready for, well, if adverse weather conditions cause you a problem, you lose your power, you need a generator, maybe you get some flooding, you need a sump pump, or maybe your yard and house are in such a mess because of the summertime drought that you need to put down some fresh mulch for the fall and think about the winter that's coming. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. And here I am. Joe is not feeling well tonight. So, and as you know, he's been having a voice problem for the better part of a week. So now it's gotten a bit worse. It's evolved into something else. So, he's not feeling up to it. And hopefully he will feel better, and he will be back with us tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. So welcome everybody to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. I'm Joe Chaffee. I'm going to be soloing tonight. And a big hello to everybody on the chat board. Glad to see you're all here, all patiently waiting either for some rain tonight from some showers and thunderstorms that are attempting to move through without falling apart. And then, of course, you've got the tropical wave in the central Atlantic, which, by the way, in my view, I pointed this out this morning on my Weather in 5 video, that it kind of looked better organized to me. And I was actually quite surprised because the Hurricane Center has pretty much not changed a single word in their outlook for the last almost 2 days. So I don't know, maybe they're seeing something different, or maybe I'm not seeing it the right way, but it kind of looked to me as if it was getting better organized. But I don't really think it matters with what's going on along the East Coast overall. It's not a completely clear-cut situation, but the overall look of the pattern and the vast of the majority of models would suggest to me that even if something does develop out of this, and I think we will get a named storm out of this either tomorrow or on Thursday or Friday, that it is not going to be impacting the eastern seaboard, but should turn out to the east. I'm probably about 95% sure that that is how it's going to play out. So, before we get to the tropics, let's start off with the radar, because we do have some showers and thunderstorms, and one of the things that has been going on with these storms, of course, especially when they near the coastline, is the fact that they tend to fall apart. So here's the radar at the moment. Put this right on top so this way you could get a good look here. Now I haven't refreshed this in a while. This is as of, let's see, where's the time clock on this? So the last time on this was at 6:22. So a little over an hour and 11 minutes ago. And you can see quite a bit of downpour activity going on in upstate New York, getting messages from folks up in parts of upstate New York that are also in a very, very dry or moderate drought situation. And they're happy enough to see the downpours. They're mostly west of 87 as you head down the Hudson Valley, kind of we're getting ready to clip into northwest New Jersey. So here's the latest radar view, and some thunderstorms have actually snuck in to northwestern New Jersey. There's also some stronger cells down south of Philadelphia going into southwestern New Jersey. This is pretty much where the Storm Prediction Center lined up the eastern flank of marginal risk for severe weather today. They didn't put up any severe thunderstorm watches. Never really got to that point. I haven't seen any actual warnings go up in the last 15 or 20 minutes. So this area seems to be marching along. However, it's right about at the point where it's reaching its peak intensity. And for areas to the east in eastern New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, and southeastern New England, some of these areas, particularly in southeastern New England, really need this to hold together. I think you folks are going to wind up getting cheated out of any rainfall of consequence. And by the way, even with what's moving along in this, it's a very very small drop in a very very large bucket that we're talking about here. So we're not really going to be seeing very much in the way of rainfall. Those showers and storms extend down into the Delmarva Peninsula. We actually have a special marine warning that's up for parts of Chesapeake Bay there. You see the little box that's popped up. Then we have a bit of a break, and then some more showers and downpours with the front pushing in to south central Virginia and into central North Carolina. There's a couple of strong cells in northern parts of South Carolina, and they went through me a little while ago. Really just got a little bit of rain, not much, and now those showers are weakening as they extend down into South Carolina and over into Georgia. And as we go further south in the Gulf states, you see we've got some showers and storms going on in parts of Alabama, southern Mississippi, southeast Louisiana. Nice little arcing line there west of Baton Rouge toward Lafayette that's actually moving southwestward in Louisiana. And then we've got some clusters of thunderstorms and a few flash flood warnings up in parts of south central Texas, extending up toward, excuse me, toward the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and also in northwest Texas, seeing some scattered showers and thunderstorms, and in parts of New Mexico. The rest of the country, though, is pretty quiet and pretty dry. And that's where we're going for the rest of the week because we have a very dry air mass that's going to be coming in for tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. You're going to see a noticeable drop in the dew points tomorrow, and that dry air is going to last right through Friday. And also the temperatures will be easing. Kind of a little fun fact statistic today was the fact that Newark hit 90 degrees today for the 18th time in the month of August, and that is a record. Newark's records go back to 1931. So the most number of 90-degree days during the month of August achieved at Newark, and still one more day to go that they could make it to 19. So it's been quite an interesting summer. I could think back to May and June when everybody was complaining about the rain and how cool it was, and folks saying that summer was over before it even got here. And lo and behold, we kind of held on till about the middle of July, and it's been a very hot, humid stretch. Not continuous, but certainly a hot, humid stretch from mid-July up until now, and it looks like that pattern is going to get broken. Here's the satellite loop tonight, and you can see the cold front's pretty well defined. We had actually much of the area had sunshine for a good part of the day, or at least some sunshine for a good part of the day. Now the question is if those showers and storms are going to hold up when they reach the coast. And again, my feeling is that within the next hour, you're going to see a lot of those cells start to weaken and fall apart. You can see the frontal band that goes down into the Carolinas and Georgia, and then further south into Alabama and Mississippi. And then, of course, the tropical moisture that's coming in from the Pacific side across Mexico and into Texas and parts of Arizona. So moisture feeding it up from that direction. Also seeing some convection in the west central Caribbean, a little tropical wave and upper trough there that's not really going to be amounting to very much. And other than that, it's nice and clear across the Great Lakes, the middle and upper Mississippi Valley, back through the plains, and throughout all of the western part of the United States. Storm Prediction Center had a marginal risk to start off the day, and they still have the marginal risk of severe weather. So that means that there might be an isolated severe thunderstorm in that air band from upstate New York and western Vermont, extending southward down into Virginia. Otherwise, it's general thunderstorm activity just about everywhere else. When we take a look at tomorrow, so this would be Wednesday into Thursday. Some general thunderstorms in northern New England and in upstate New York, but from those areas southward down into the Carolinas and Georgia, and northern Alabama and Mississippi. This weather front actually is making it pretty far south. So as a result, we're seeing a lack of thunderstorm activity, and we're going to see some dew point relief make it all the way down into the southeastern part of the U.S. Marginal risk tomorrow, northeastern Colorado, southern Nebraska, northwestern Kansas, and a small area of general thunderstorms in parts of Washington State, northern Idaho, and in northwest Montana. Day 3, which takes us Thursday into Friday. For the first day of September, you would expect to see maybe a larger area of general thunderstorms, but most of the country, about 90% of it, no thunderstorms are forecast. Just the southeast to Florida, across the Gulf Coast, back to Texas, southern New Mexico, and into southeastern Arizona. The areas of general thunderstorm activity being indicated. And again, this is for Thursday and into Friday. And as far as rainfall is concerned, from WPC, now this is from 8 o'clock tonight to 8 o'clock next Tuesday night. So much of what you see, some of what you see here is from what's falling this evening. Then there's going to be another chance for late Sunday and on Monday, Labor Day, when we have another weather front that's going to be coming through. Now, the big question for that front is going to be whether it stalls out for a while. And I think the tropical system that over the weekend will be passing well east of the Bahamas will have a say in that cold front getting hung up for a little while. We have to wait for the tropical system to get out far enough east to get that front to start moving again. In which case, once we're done with that, it looks like the weather could actually wind up being dry for quite a while. So let's go to the tropics. Let's take a look at what's going on here, and you can see on the satellite loop. The tropical wave in the central Atlantic has not really moved very much since yesterday. It's maybe inched a bit more toward the west. The models were showing the idea that maybe it was going to kind of stall out for a day or two before you get a push and it starts to move back to the west-northwest. I do want to point out right in here, you can see these clouds are going from north to south. That was there was a very broad upper low that was creating shear over this tropical wave yesterday and the day before, and we noticed how disorganized all the clouds and showers were. You could see that there was some sort of mid-level circulation going on, but thunderstorms were clustered on one side and on the other side, and there was a big gaping hole in the middle as to where those where the center of this might be, the mid-level center. Now, I said since this morning, and I continue to say that based on the satellite, you could certainly see that there's some turning going on, and also that the showers and thunderstorms are increasing this evening. There's a little bit more organization, I think, beginning to take shape. So I think this will become a tropical depression or a tropical storm, if not tomorrow, certainly the next day. And the track is going to be pretty much to the west-northwest once it gets going again. And I'll just, no, that's the arrow I want. So it's probably going to take a course something like until we get it east of the Bahamas, and then we're going to watch to see it start to make a turn more toward the north at this point. And we explained yesterday the reasoning behind that, and I'll just bring the map up a little further north so that you can see what's happening. So you've got right now there's an upper low sitting well offshore. You've got a system here off the well off the North Carolina Virginia coast that's moving out to the east, and obviously those systems are not going to be there come Sunday. But what we have, at least initially, is an upper ridge that is building, and this tropical wave is going to get cradled underneath that upper ridge and go to the west northwest. Now, there's also another upper high back in the plains, and there's a weakness in the middle, and that weakness is going to be along the east coast on Sunday. So you're going to have the ridge out in the Atlantic with an opening, and then you're going to have the ridge to the west. So in between that, right in here, in this area, is going to be a weakness. And that's why, the models all show, most of the models show the idea of the system exploiting that weakness and then turning northward and eventually turning out to the northeast. I think that still remains the case. There are some model complications, depending on which model you look at, that uh, could tell a slightly different story going forward. But for now, I think that's the best bet in terms of what's going to happen. So I'll give you the profile here on the GFS, and then we'll take a look at the European as well. So here we go. We're going to put up the upper air. We'll start it with today. Uh, Look out in the Atlantic. It looks kind of messy, obviously. We talked about, here's this upper low that I was telling you about that's, shearing the tropical system, which is somewhere over here. You've got a high uh, west of the Cabo Verde, of the Canary Islands. You've got an upper high that is sitting just northeast of Bermuda. And then here's your upper high in the Central Plains. And this is your upper trough that is coming through tonight with our cold front, our showers and storms, and the nice dry air that's going to come in behind it. When I say dry, nice dry air, I'm referring to the humidity. We really could, obviously, we could use not one, but probably several widespread rainfall events. But that's just not going to happen with this northwest flow. Now, the upper trough's going to lift out. You're going to see the upper high build off the southeast coast. So now we're into Friday night, Saturday. And here's where you've got your ridge off the east coast. Your tropical system is right there. Okay. There's another high on the edge of your screen, back over into Kansas, and your tropical system's getting cradled underneath this ridge. And notice in between the two highs, you have a trough, and that's the weakness. That by the time we get to Sunday, that weakness is going to be along the east coast. You can see the Atlantic ridge just kind of weakens and shifts westward, and you have upper air winds in the atmosphere come early next week, dropping southward down into the Carolinas. Your westerly winds in the upper atmosphere are pretty far to the south. So here's your tropical system's going to try to respond to that by turning north and northeastward. What and at least as far as the GFS is concerned, it does exactly that, and then lifts up, passing well southeast of Newfoundland and just kind of sitting out there in the middle of the Atlantic. So that seems to be what the GFS would like us to believe with regards to this. Now the European's a little bit different, and maybe the European is something that we might want to just have maybe be a little cautious about. Because the European actually holds on to a stronger upper high over the weekend, but then it drops a trough. It drops this trough down in the Ohio Valley and kind of cuts it off there down in Kentucky and into Tennessee. And what it does is that it has the tropical system being much weaker, and it's right there. This is now late next week, believe it or not. But it keeps it as a much weaker, slow-moving system, and eventually what it does is that it merges it with the upper low that is moving into the southeast, and you wind up with a non-tropical system along the east coast late next week that would give you the idea that maybe it would bring some rain up the coast. Now, I think the European, the GFS was at times was showing something similar, but it's sort of backed away from that. So for now, I'm always usually looking. You try to find most of the time it's the easiest solution that winds up being the correct solution with these things. And that's the way I'm going to go with this, with respect to the system, to go for the sort of recurvature solution. Now, here are the hurricane tracking charts from earlier this afternoon. What's kind of interesting is that you actually now have a bunch of members that take it more west northwestward and towards 70 degrees west. It's usually, it's always been my belief that a storm that gets to 70 west before it gets to 30 degrees north has a higher probability of being a threat to the Bahamas or to the southeast coast of the United States uh, than if it were to be to the right of 70 degrees west. So, but there actually are a few models, and I think when you analyze this, it'll be the ones that keep the system the weakest take it on a more west northwest course through the next 5 or 6 days, while the stronger, more developed models, where the storm becomes a strong tropical storm or even a Category 1 hurricane, tending to have more of a northerly component and wanting to turn the storm northward somewhere between west of 65 degrees west, but not quite to about 70. Say it's about 68 degrees west, so somewhere in there, north of 25 degrees north latitude. And that's kind of where the GFS has been going with this. And if we look at the intensity guidance, by the way, most of the intensity guidance has this as a tropical storm within the next 24 to 36 hours. And then you have a number of models that take this to a Category 1 hurricane as early as 84 hours would be. So today is Tuesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so sometime Friday night. You have a couple of models that have it as a Cat 1 hurricane, a few more joining as over the weekend as a Cat 1, and even a couple of them that take it up to a Category 2 hurricane. Given that we are at the beginning of September, climatology would suggest that the stronger solutions would be more favorable as opposed to the weaker ones. But you just never know what's going on in the upper atmosphere with these things. So, going forward, barring any complications, it's a fairly straightforward outlook here. And I got the full U.S. map with our showers and storms gone by later tonight. We'll have a nicer day coming up tomorrow. The dew points are going to be dropping down sharply. You'll see that high holding into the east for Thursday and Friday, so the dew points will stay low. Notice on the lower left, we have a hurricane out in the Pacific passing off the Baja Peninsula while all this is going on. And this, by the way, is the system that the GFS back days and days ago kept trying to make a storm in the Northwest Caribbean and taking it into the Gulf of Mexico. The European was showing a weaker system further south, and that's the one, and that turned out to be the correct solution. Now, as far as the weather in the east is concerned, it looks great. Actually, the weather across most of the country looks great for Wednesday and Thursday, except for right along the immediate Gulf Coast and back through Texas, where we're going to have showery rains and some downpours, again, right along the immediate coast. And then over the weekend, as the high moves out, we're going to turn warmer and more humid. And here comes another cold front for Sunday. Now, here's where it gets a little complicated for Sunday evening and beyond, because the front gets to the coast, and then you see on the lower right, you've got the tropical system on the GFS. It's creating some ridging along the east coast, and that holds the front up. So if that's correct, then we could have some showery rains around from late Sunday afternoon on and off Sunday night and Monday Labor Day. You can see the model is indicating that possibility. I'm going to switch over to the radar view so you can take a better look here. So it'll be interesting to see if that does wind up happening. If there's a weaker system down off the southeast coast, then that front may very well move out to the east, and the weather will improve for Monday, Labor Day. But for now, we have to respect what the GFS is doing with the tropical system to the south, kind of causing the front to get hung up for an extra day or so. And then by the time we get to Tuesday, as the system moves away, we see improving weather conditions for the rest of the week. Notice there's another system that comes out in the Pacific side over the Baja Peninsula, and that feeds in some moisture to the southwest later next week. and brings rain across the Gulf states and into the southeast, but again, lacking in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states. Here's where it does lift up. This is where it kind of looks like what the European is doing for late next week, only taking an extra day or two on the GFS, where it lifts a low, a non-tropical low, coming up the coast with some rain. And this would be for the weekend after Labor Day. So it's a long ways away, and who knows if that is going to be correct. The one thing I do want to point out that we should pay attention to in terms of the broad overall pattern, and you're not going to get too many clues here when we look at the upper air on the GFS, but you'll notice that. I'm going to just roll this back. One of the things that caught my eye today was this tendency for upper lows to start dropping into the Gulf of, from the Aleutians into the Gulf of Alaska. And that could be in response to what's going on in the Western Pacific with this typhoon. Because oftentimes when you have typhoons that recurve east of over Japan or east of Japan, and then run northeastward from there into eastern Russia, or eventually up into the Aleutians or the Gulf of Alaska, that could alter the pattern overall across North America, and it'll tend to want to make for troughing in the eastern part of the United States, and also a trough down at about 160 degrees west where Hawaii is. So that's it's not quite showing that here on tonight's run. There were hints of it on other runs in the past couple of days, but I think that's something we should pay attention to. And if you go on tropical tidbits on current storms, you see Super Typhoon Hinnam Noir, which is at 26.3 north, 131.9 west. Top winds are 140 knots. So this is a Category 5 hurricane here. And we'll load the loop. You can see how the eye, I mean, this is just an absolute buzzsaw. The track now is looking like it's more south of west, and it is forecast actually to move southwestward. But this is a really impressive hurricane hitting its peak intensity. And if you if we look at the model forecasts here from the GFS, just follow the. I know it looks like a mess here with all the members, but follow the dark black line, which is the average position of all the members, and you'll notice it turns southwest and even southward, and then starts to turn northward and northeastward, passing just west of Japan in the open waters west on the west side of Japan, and running northeastward from there over the next 7 or 8 days. Actually, this goes out some of the 192 hours, 168, 192. So at least through the next 8 or 9 days. So if these recurving systems in the Western Pacific, as we said, can oftentimes be a forerunner of some sort of pattern change across North America, where the trough comes more active in the eastern part of the United States, and you get more ridging out in the west. And the other thing I want to just bring up here is the fact, well, a couple of things. First off, let's look at the dew points because they're going to be quite nice. This is tonight where we're in this humid mess, but the front goes by. By tomorrow afternoon, we've got dew points in the 40s in much of western New England. Not in Maine, though, but in western New England, New York State, down through New Jersey, down into Virginia, North Carolina, and even into North Georgia. Dew points dropping down into the lower 50s. And by the time we get to Thursday morning, you've got nice dry 50s dew points, almost but not quite down to the Gulf Coast, which is pretty a little early, but I mean, eventually does get there. But as you get later in the month of September, but early September, it's not common to see dew points down in the 50s in southern Alabama. But look at these dew points on Thursday in upstate New York, Thursday morning in the 40s, and even 30 dew points Thursday afternoon. And we're going to hold on to that dry air into Friday. The dew points start to come up a little bit. On Saturday, we'll be back up through the 50s. And then Sunday, the humidity comes back with dew points into the 60s. And then that holds on into next week, again, depending on what this weather front does or doesn't do. And late next week, we get another little visitation here of some lower dew points toward the end of next week. So the one thing that's lacking here is a pattern change that suggests that we would see a something uh, regarding a rain. Okay, that is not happening. Here I am. So that's not happening, at least not yet. And as far as the rest of the tropics go, we're not seeing too much in the way of activity beyond what the models are showing with this lead system. Uh, the system that's off the African coast is disorganized and is forecast to move northwestward fairly quickly. So it probably will not make it far enough to the west to be even something that we would, be considering as a tropical system. Last Kiss, thank you for hitting Super Chat. Says it's great to catch a live. I'm usually not back from work early enough. I missed the first few minutes. So how much do you think in Southeast Mass with rain with this? I have to tell you, Last Kiss, it does look like a lot of this is going to fall apart before it gets to you. So I really wouldn't look for too much with regards to these overnight showers and storms. From what I was looking at, the whole area, this has been sort of a signature. A lot of the thing with these cold fronts is timing is everything when it comes to these cold fronts, and unless you get, these fronts are timing out where they're peaking and in intensity at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening when the thunderstorms are still well inland. So after that, they just lose their support, they lose the daytime heating, and they just fall apart. And this one, I think, is going to play the same way. Perhaps the models are rushing the weakening, but I still think ultimately, overall, you're probably not going to see much of anything with regards to rainfall. And thank you again for hitting Super Chat. Also, Leon Probitsky sitting there in Lindenhurst waiting for some rain to come in. And unfortunately, even for you, the rains, Leon, are going to probably not not make it, or if they do, they barely will make it, and you'll get a few hundredths. So, Tom Contino, you asked me this a couple of times, about doing a winter outlook. No, I don't do. I do not do long range outlooks. Okay, I do not do long range outlooks. I can't make it any clearer than that. It is not my cup of tea. I have never been able to get my head around it. Um, Other people are there are some people that do rather well with talking about broad scale patterns in the longer term. I'm not one of those people, so you know, it's not my strong suit. Give me something that I can look at inside 2 to 3 weeks. If I can get a sense of what the overall pattern it's going to do, I can usually figure it out. But beyond that, who knows? I have no clue. I don't, at this stage of the game, we're not even the 1st of September is just another 2 days away. Let's at least let the calendar turn and get into September before we start messing with the idea of winter. Christinapedia, how does the humidity compare this year to other years? I mean, I have to say, every year everybody's reactions are almost always predictable and always the same. So without actually having to look at statistics, uh, it's hard for me to kind of reflect on memory. People always say, if, for example, there's no spring. How come there's no spring? There's never a spring. You would think that after so many years of having year after year where quote unquote there is no spring, it would have sunk into most people's heads that, well, that kind of is what spring is. It's not this, you know, idyllic uh, not this idyllic season that is written about in literature, where the sun shines every day and the flowers bloom, and it rains just enough to make the sunshine come back and more flowers bloom. Okay, it doesn't work that way, particularly in the Northeast. We know in the Northeast, spring is a miserable time of year. It's always a miserable time of year. But everybody seems to think that otherwise. Um, the summers are, as I said earlier, all through the spring and going into the summer. There isn't going to be a summer. It's been so cool. We've got so much rain. When is it going to stop raining? Well, guess what? It stopped raining, and it's basically hasn't rained very much in the last 2 months. So, for those of you who were wishing it back in the spring that it would stop raining, you got your wish. So, now to answer your question, as far as the humidity is concerned, I don't know if it was 2 years ago or three years ago. One of those summers, it was a year where we had a really really long streak of highs in the 80s and a really long streak of days where the dew points were off the wall. So I'm going to say that this is not quite like that particular summer was. I think it was either 3 summers ago or 4 summers ago where we had it was pretty much from June to September and through the month of September, it was ridiculously humid most of the time. So I would say compared to that, this summer has not been quite as humid. Actually, if you think about it, we've actually had a fair number of dry air intrusions that have come down and brought dew points down in the eastern part of the United States, particularly in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states, but even extending down into parts of the southeast for a day or so. And that happened last year, as I recall. So, yeah, I'm thinking go back 3 or 4 summers ago. I wish I could, you know, my memory used to be where I could pull these things, right out of a hat, and those days, unfortunately, are long gone. Johnny Quest with his 100 inches of rainfall in the northwestern Virginia mountains, and he just always seems to pile it on up there with the rowboat. But getting at least a little bit of a break now once with this front going by, you shouldn't have much to worry about. And it's going to take maybe that typhoon, if it recurves, will alter the pattern across North America enough so that we could wind up seeing a wetter pattern develop. That would go against the month of September, which typically is a dry month. September and October are two of the drier months of the year, believe it or not. I you know, sometimes the early part of September could wind up being wet if you've had a wet August, but obviously we haven't had a wet August. So from judging from we looked at the models, at least for the first 10 days of September, it doesn't look like there's going to be much, if any, rain, unless we can get a front to get hung up, like some of the models are suggesting, maybe for Sunday night and Monday for second part of the Labor Day holiday weekend. No, things, Tom, are not brown here. We get a shower or a thunderstorm here just about every day in the mountains, and we've had plenty of rain. And I've had a few, really solid overnight thunderstorms on and off in the last couple of weeks where it just pours out of control. So no, it's not dry here at all. There was a stretch. There was a stretch last year where it was fairly dry for about 3 or 4 weeks, and when it gets dry here, especially as you get into the warmer months, it things get dry very quickly. The sun here really does a good job of that. But no, it's the rainfall here, from my estimation, has been pretty much typical for Northeast Georgia and for the time of year. So anyhow, all right. So we're going to call it a night. Thanks everybody for being here. 3 nights in a row with no technical issues. Knock on wood. Joe Rayo, feel better, and hopefully he will be back tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern. Otherwise, I will be here tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern time. Thank you for the super chat hits tonight from Leon Probitsky and from Last Kiss. You're new to the chat board, and welcome. Glad to see that you were able to make the show tonight. So we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern time. And everybody take care. We'll see you tomorrow.